Hey everybody, this is the Football Diva coming to you on Tuesday. I hope everybody is doing well. So I am back for another week, and what I want to do is something different. Since I am a woman and there are a lot of women who love watching football, but we just really don't know what's going on. We know touchdown and first down, some of us do, and little things like that. So I just wanted to start from the beginning and talk about a different topic every week. And then that should lead us into the football season. So right now the OTAs are done. That is the organized team activities. They are having their mandatory mini camps right now. Next will be the training camps, where each team will eventually go from 90 players to 53 to get the best players to carry them through the season and on the road to the Super Bowl. The first preseason game starts August 3rd, and it'll be the Cowboys against the Cardinals, which is a Thursday night game, a Hall of Fame game, as a matter of fact. And then you have 4 weeks of preseason. And then the first regular season game starts 7 September, which is a Thursday night game where the Chiefs will take on the Patriots. So before then, I'm going to try to teach you so we will be prepared and we will know what we're looking at so we can enjoy this wonderful game of football. Of course, I'm going to talk about the news around the NFL, what's going on, but first I wanted to start talking about football, the very beginning. How did football start? Who invented football? How did this thing get started that we love so much? So anyway, where we're going to start is the first game, the first credited game, which was in 1869 between Rutgers and Princeton. Okay, and that was the first football contest that was credited, like I said. And then it spread rapidly throughout the East Coast. But it was mastered only by the Ivy League schools at the beginning. So throughout the 1870s and the 1880s, Yale's Walter Camp helped transform the game by making a few rule changes that distinguished football from rugby. And Camp is credited for establishing the line of scrimmage, inventing the center quarterback exchange, and developing many of the scoring rules leagues use today. But as we get further along, we'll talk about all those things. So Camp, for all that he did, is referred to as the father of American football. The first football that was used resembled a medicine ball. They were round, heavy, and difficult to throw. And then for the first few decades of organized football, it closely resembled rugby, where players were wearing thick sweaters instead of jerseys and relying on very little protective equipment if they were wearing anything at all. And they didn't begin wearing head protection until 1890s. But then it wasn't until 1940 that pro football required that all players wear a leather helmet. Football has came such a long way. It has transcended from being a game for college club teams to the most watched sports in America. So back then, in the early stages of football was responsible for serious injuries, even casualties. So the president at the time, Teddy Roosevelt, decided to intervene. President Roosevelt was a fan of the game but understood rules would be needed to preserve its long term. So upon his recommendation, a number of changes were introduced in the 1906 season that helped reduce the number of serious injuries. The 1920s were a time of celebration and unlimited possibilities. Pro football was struggling to gain its legs, even though the college game was just spreading like wildfire. The owners of the American Professional Football Association were finding it difficult to earn a profit. And through its first few years, the league changed its name 3 times before settling on the National Football League, the NFL, in 1922. The season that changed the game for good was in 1946. A couple of things that happened was the Cleveland Rams relocated their franchise to Los Angeles that year, making them the first NFL team of the modern era to play west of the Mississippi River. 4 years later, the San Francisco 49ers would join them. Also in 1946, the Rams added African-American players Kenny Washington and Woody Strode to their roster, a year before the great Jackie Robinson integrated Major League Baseball. Washington and Strode were part of a movement that would help place an African American on every NFL roster by 1962. And what was it that made the game of football the most profitable, most watched sport in America? Television. That's what happened, television. I mean, the radio was good, but it could not offer the full effect of a bone-crushing hit or a fingertip catch. Television exposed football's violence and broadcast its odd characters to a much larger audience. By 1960, the popularity of pro football had began to pique the interest of other businessmen. The American Football League was started that year, and it catered to the West Coast markets not being serviced by the NFL. The AFL experienced tremendous growth throughout the decade and proved able to compete for the best talent. In time, however, AFL owners felt compelled to join the NFL instead of waging a war over viewers and players. In 1970, the two leagues merged, increasing the number of NFL teams from 16 to 26. All of this growth, as well as the birth of Monday Night Football in 1970, helped pro football reach new heights of success. So, who started pro football? That was William Pudge Heffelfinger. He was a former standout for Yale who was paid the handsome sum of $500 to play. Another legend was University of Illinois halfback Harold Red Grange, and he was referred to the Galloping Ghost.
Was Red Grange, the first big NFL star, who, in 1925, sprinted from the campus of Illinois to the Bears and the bank, pocketing the then ridiculous sum of $100,000 to thrill huge crowds as the Galloping Ghost.
Red Grange carried the ball 4,013 times for an average of 8.1 yards and scored 531 touchdowns.
To capitalize on its newfound popularity, the NFL created the NFL Championship game in 1933, played between the best teams in each division.
And your World Championship game is underway.
Grange's Bears were a powerhouse, playing in 7 of the first 11 championships against teams like Tim Mara's Giants and the Redskins, led by Slingin' Sammy Baugh, who lived up to his name by throwing the ball all over the gridiron.
Every time he throws the football, completes a pass, gains a yard, scores a touchdown, Baugh sets a world record.
Okay, that's all I'm going to say now about the history of football. Next week we will talk about something else. I don't know what yet, but you will find out when you come back. So let's move on to what's been going on in the NFL since last week. Jeremy Maclin is now with the Baltimore Ravens. He signed a 2-year contract with them following his release by the Kansas City Chiefs. Eric Decker was released by the New York Jets. Eddie Lacy, who came from Green Bay, who is now with the Seattle Seahawks, came in below his weight limit, which will allow him to get a $55,000 bonus check. And good for him. He signed a 1-year contract with the Seahawks. He weighed in at 253 pounds on May 15th against a 255-pound weight limit. And the team has 5 more weigh-ins scheduled. Beckham skipped the team's 10 voluntary OTA practices because he was training in California and working out with his trainer and even spending time with Hall of Fame wide receiver Chris Carter. The Giants will hold their 3-day mandatory minicamp training this week, starting today. Kaepernick watch. Okay, Kaepernick is still without a job, but his jerseys sold more in May than Von Miller, Matt Ryan, and Dez Bryant. I think Colin Kaepernick was number 17 on that list of 25. Marshawn Lynch was the number 1 jersey sale. And Adrian Peterson, now a New Orleans Saint, who that? His came in at number 25. So I think that is all I'm going to talk about today. Thank you for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed the quick history of football. And like I said, every week we'll talk about something else that will lead us up into the preseason. And then we'll just keep going after that. We'll find plenty of things to talk about after that, I'm sure. So everybody be good, be a blessing to others. And I will see you next week. Football Diva out.